Hello, everyone. This is Rose. Today's topic from the Book of Life is Joseph, son of Jacob, the Bible. Why do people feel they can change the favor of God on a person's life by plotting and speaking ill of that person? The darkness that is in their heart blocks them from seeing the jealous spirit that is radiating from their soul actually is hindering them from prospering, not changing the favor of God or taking it away from somebody's life. Let's take a look at this short story from the Book of Life. The story of Joseph, son of Jacob and Rachel, is a very unique, relatable story. So many of us are birthed into a family with many siblings sharing either a father or a mother, but not the same two parents, a father and a mother together. This is not to say that siblings is not birthed into a family where they share both parents, but oftentimes there are many siblings that share either a father or a mother. Many times, the parents of the blended family favor one child over the other, which in turn can cause that child to act biased to his siblings based on the spiritual traits of the parent that favored them. See, in the story of Joseph, there are many siblings. Joseph had many siblings, all share the same father, but different mothers. Also in the story of Joseph, there is a spiritual lineage of family betrayal. Joseph's grandparents, Isaac and Rebekah, gave birth to twin boys, whom they named Esau and Jacob. Joseph's father, Jacob, was the youngest, the second born of the twins. Joseph's uncle Esau was the first, the oldest of the twin boys. Now, Joseph's grandfather, Isaac, he favored his son Esau, the oldest of the twins. And Joseph's grandmother, Rebekah, she favored the youngest of their twins, Jacob. So one day, Esau, the oldest twin, came home from working in the fields. See, Esau was the worker. He was the one that went out in the fields and worked all the time. And so he comes in feeling ill from working in the fields. He feels sick. So he tells his twin Jacob, who is the one that dwells in the tent the majority of the times, he tells him that he is feeling ill because he sees that Jacob had prepared a meal. So he's asking his brother, his twin brother Jacob, for food because he's feeling so sick from not eating. Now here's what his twin brother Jacob says to him in exchange for a meal. Jacob only agrees to give Esau food if Esau sells him his birthright. Esau tells his brother Jacob, "I'm at the point of death. Therefore, this birthright has no value to me. Yes, I will sell you my birthright for a meal." So Jacob makes his brother swear on it. "Swear to me that you are selling me your birthright for a meal." Esau he sweared it away. "I give you my birthright, I swear." So Joseph's grandfather Isaac, who we know is old, and he is of poor eyesight. He becomes blind. And so what he does is he knows he's at this point of death. So he called his oldest son, his favorite son, Esau. He calls him to come, and he tells his son that he wants to bless him before he dies. Isaac asks Esau to prepare his favorite meal before he blesses him. So Isaac sends Esau to the field, out into the fields to hunt for venison. Venison is deer meat. So he wants him to go out and hunt for a deer, and he tells his son, he said, go hunt and prepare my favorite meal. Go find me some venison. Now, Joseph's grandmother, Rebecca, she overhears her husband telling their oldest son, Esau, to go to the field and hunt for the venison to prepare this meal before her husband, Isaac, blessed their oldest son, Esau. So what she does, she plots against this blessing. She calls her favorite son Jacob, and she tells him what she overheard. Then she tells him about her plan to steal the oldest son blessing from him and give it to her youngest, Jacob. So she tells him, instructs him to go out to their flock, go to the flock and bring me back 2 young goats so that she can prepare her husband, Isaac's favorite meal. Now, how she's going to get these goats to taste like deer meat, I do not know. But she has a plan up her sleeve. So she's telling her son, she go into this elaborate story of how she's going to steal the oldest son blessing. Jacob, the youngest son, he loves his mother, but he got frightened. He was scared. He tells his mother, he said, I don't want a curse to come upon me for stealing the blessing of his brother. Because see, he knew that the blessing was more than just his father, Isaac, passing down this blessing to Esau. He knew that this was a covenant, a blessing from God that he was getting ready to pass on to his son Esau. And Jacob became frightened. He did not want a curse to come upon him for stealing the blessing. His mother tells him, upon me shall the curse be, not you, my son. Upon me shall be the curse. She loved her son so much she was willing to have a curse be put upon her in order to make sure her favorite son, Jacob, received a blessing over her son Esau. So Jacob, he does as his mother instructed him to do. He goes out and he come back with the 2 young goats. Now, because the oldest son Esau was a hairy man, the mother had to be clever in switching her favorite son in place of his brother. So after cooking the young goats, Rebecca took the hairy skin of the goats and she placed it on Jacob's hand and around his neck area. She had Jacob dressed in his brother's clothes. She instructed Jacob to take the meal to his father as he pretends to be his brother Esau. Rebecca knew because her husband was blind, he would use touch in place of sight to know which son was standing before him. Now Isaac, Rebecca's husband, their father, he questioned how it is that his son found the venison so quickly? See, he sent him to the fields to look for this deer. And evidently Jacob knew it was going to take some time. So he questioned, how did you find the venison so quickly? Jacob, pretending to be Esau, tells his dad, because God helped me. So he lied on God. Isaac tells his son that he sounds like Jacob. He said, you sounds like Jacob. So he asks him to come near so that he can touch him. After feeling hair on his hands, on his son's hands, Isaac declared, your voice sounds like Jacob, but your hands are definitely Esau's hands. So him still wanting to be sure, Isaac still wanted to be sure, he asked his son to kiss him on the cheek. Come kiss me, son. When Jacob kisses his father, Isaac smells his clothing. He can smell the feels on the clothing because Jacob was wearing Esau clothes. Therefore, Isaac was deceived in blessing Jacob. After Esau discovered his brother had stolen his blessing, see, Esau comes back. He comes back with this venison. He prepares his father a meal. He goes in and seeking to get his blessing, and his father goes, I already blessed you. That's when they realize he was deceived, and the person he actually blessed was the youngest child, Jacob. So Esau was angry. He was so angry at his brother that he threatened to kill him. Now Isaac, he favored Esau, but he was not in agreement with Esau wanting to kill his brother because of what he had did. So Isaac and Rebekah sends Jacob away in order to separate him from the anger of his brother Esau. Jacob was sent to live in the land of his mother's brother Laban. Laban had 2 daughters. So when Jacob arrived into the land of Laban, he sees Laban's youngest daughter, and he falls in love with her. Her name is Rachel. Jacob was immediately smitten by Rachel and her beauty. He just fell in love with Rachel on sight. So as he communicated with his uncle and let his uncle know that he comes to dwell in the same land with him, he asked his uncle if he can serve him, working 7 years for the approval to marry Rachel, his youngest daughter. Now keep in mind, this Laban is Jacob's brother, Rebekah, the one who plotted against her husband and her son to steal the blessing to give to her favorite son, Jacob. So now, they cut from the same cloth, Laban and his sister Rebekah. So Jacob asked Laban to work for him for 7 years for his approval to marry Rachel. His uncle Laban said yes. He said yes, but guess what he did? He deceived him. After Jacob completing his 7 years of work for Rachel, he goes to Laban and he tells him, I'm ready to be married to Rachel. So Laban arranged, he tells Jacob he's going to arrange for him to consummate in marriage with his daughter that evening, that night. So Jacob, being happy, he goes into the tent when it's dark and the daughter is in there, and he lays with her. He consummates in marriage with her. And he wakes up the next morning to his surprise and find out the person he actually laid with and consummated in marriage with was the oldest daughter, Leah. He had been deceived when he saw Leah lying next to him in bed. So what did he do? He runs to his uncle and confronts him. And his uncle, having the same spirit as his sister Rebecca, he tells him, it is not customary in my country to give the youngest daughter Rachel in marriage before the firstborn daughter. So Laban tells Jacob, work for me another 7 years, an additional 7 years, in order to marry Rachel as well. So Jacob went for it because he figured he can't deceive me this time. He only has 2 daughters. And he loved Rachel so much he was willing to work the additional 7 years to get Rachel. So Jacob worked 7 more years. You can clearly see this spiritual lineage of family betrayal. So after Jacob works the 7 years and he's able to consummate in marriage to Rachel, he finds out Rachel is barren. The one he loves is unable to bear him some children. Now, he has, throughout the marriage, he has 7 kids with Leah, the one he did not want to marry, the one he does not love, the one who is not beautiful as Rachel. But he has a total of 7 kids with her throughout the marriage. Him and Leah, they give birth to 6 boys and 1 daughter. Because Rachel is hurting, because she's watching her sister be able to give her husband kids, children, and she wanted to give him some and couldn't, she decided that she would give her handmaid to her husband so that she can bear her some kids. Now she figured, this is my handmaid. If my handmaid sleeps with my husband and bear kids, it's just as though I'm having these kids, bearing these kids. So Rachel gives her handmaid to Jacob, and not just one time, but twice. And each time the handmaid has a son for Jacob. Now at this point, Leah is jealous. She's jealous because Leah is at a point of where she no longer can have any kids. She's jealous of Rachel's beauty. She's jealous of the fact that Rachel gave her handmaid to their husband, and the handmaid bare 2 sons for Jacob. And she's jealous of the fact that she's not able to give more kids to their husband. So what she does is she matched Rachel by giving her handmaid to their husband Jacob to bear kids. And her handmaid also had 2 kids by their husband Jacob, and they both are sons. This is a very confusing relationship, to say the least. 2 wives who are sisters, and 2 handmaids. They all sleeping with the one man, Jacob. Shaking my head. Therefore, now that Leah's handmaid had 2 sons for Jacob, At this point, Rachel is still barren, but at this point, there are a total of 8 kids that Jacob has. He has 8 sons. Well, he has not a total of 8 sons by Leah. He has 8 sons by Leah and 4 sons by the 2 handmaids. So there's more than a total of 8 kids, but it's 8 kids by Leah and 4 sons by the handmaids combined. Leah's oldest son, Reuben, he knows that his mother is not able to bear any more children. So he goes out to the wheat harvest and he brings back some mandrake herbs for his mother, Leah. Now at this point, Leah is not sleeping with their husband, Jacob. What is the point? Jacob don't love her. She's not able to bear him no kids. So why do he want to sleep with her? So he's not sleeping with Leah. So when Reuben comes back with the mandrake and Rebecca sees that Reuben brings his mom back mandrake, Rebecca knows that Leah is going to have more kids with Jacob, and Jacob is going to go back and sleep with her. So she begs her sister Leah for the mandrake, some mandrake. She begs her for some mandrake so that she can conceive a child. Them being as cunning and conniving as they were, at this time, Leah purchased nights of pleasure from Jacob through Rachel. She tells her sister Rachel, I would give you the mandrake, some mandrake in exchange for Jacob sleeping with me. Because see, she knew that Jacob loved Rachel and he would do whatever Rachel asked him to do. So she tells Rachel, if Jacob sleeps with me, I would give you some mandrake. So Rachel gives Leah gives Rachel the mandrake, and Rachel asks Jacob to sleep with Leah. So now Leah is able to have more kids because she took mandrake too, and she ended up giving Jacob 3 more kids, 2 more sons and a daughter. Now after Rachel has her mandrake and takes it, she is finally able to conceive a child. Finally, she gives birth to a son, and she names him Joseph, who the story is all about. We had to do all of this to get to the point of Joseph, because soon it's going to make sense, this storyline. So now Joseph is the only child conceived in love. He is the only child by Rachel and Jacob together. Jacob fell in love with Rachel the first time he laid eyes on her, and he did the same for his son. He fell in love with Joseph. Joseph was his first child born in love, and he loved him more than all the other kids he had with the other women. Now Jacob is ready to move from his uncle's Laban land. He has his 2 wives, he has their handmaids, and he has all these children. And he's ready to leave the land of his uncle Laban after his son Joseph was born. He has what he really came for, his wife Rachel and a child by her. So now he's ready to leave and make a change. So Laban go ahead and he gives his blessing for Jacob to leave with his wives, handmaids, and his kids. So as Jacob journeyed to the land of Bethlehem, his wife Rachel was with another child. As they traveling, she becomes pregnant in travel, and she is in labor. She goes into labor while they are traveling. Rachel, unfortunately, the one he loves, died after giving birth to her second son, Benjamin, who is the 12th son of Jacob. So Jacob have a combined total of 12 sons and one daughter, with his 2 wives and their handmaids. Before Rachel's death, God changed Jacob's name to Israel. He changed his name to Israel. Israel loved his son Joseph more than his other children. He made Joseph a coat of many colors. Just as Leah knew Jacob, now known as Israel, loved Rachel more than her, so did Israel's kids know their father loved Joseph more than them. So his other kids, his other sons and daughter, they can see that their father loved Joseph more than them. He made his favorite son a coat of many colors. They were jealous of Joseph. Jacob's other kids was jealous of Joseph and hated him, just as Leah was jealous of Rachel and hated her. Joseph, being this happy-go-lucky kid, see, he didn't see that. He didn't see what the other kids saw because he had the love of his father. And he had the love of his mother before she passed away in childbirth. So he didn't see that his siblings hated him. He was just a happy-go-lucky child, not aware of the hate his brothers had for him. Now, Joseph has a dream. He has a dream, and he decided to share this dream with his brothers. Because Joseph's dream was about him being blessed to the point that his family would have to come to him for help, his brothers hated him even more. Joseph's brothers were so jealous of him that they plotted against him. While working in the fields, his brothers was working in the field, Joseph was sent to his brothers. And his brothers plotted against him and decided to strip him of his coat of colors. And they took their brother and they sold him to the Ishmaelites. They sold him to the Ishmaelites. They was merchants who was traveling through the fields that his brothers was working in, and they were heading to Egypt. These Ishmaelites was heading to Egypt. And so here, the brothers was plotting. At one point, they wanted to kill him. And they kept changing their mind on what they was going to do to him. They wanted to kill him. They threw him in a pit, in a hole. And the last resort was to just sell him. Sell him to the Israelites. Get rid of him. That way, his blood is not on our hands if we just sell him and get rid of him. So the brothers took his coat. When they sold him, they took Joseph's coat and they dipped it in goat's blood. And they took the coat back to their father, and they declared that their brother was dead. One could clearly see the same deceitful, jealous spirit that Jacob and his mother used to steal Jacob's brother Esau's blessing was in his sons and used to plot against Joseph. Although Esau threatened to kill his brother Jacob years later, he ended up blessing his brother and showing him love. So Esau's threats was out of anger. They was out of anger, and he really did not want to kill his brother. But Joseph's brothers, they just wanted him gone because they did plot to kill him, and they changed their mind because they didn't want the blood of their brother to be on their hands, so they sold him. So in the same manner, that Joseph's dream tells how his family will humbly come to him and he will bless them and show them love in spite of them plotting against them. This is what ended up happening. The Ishmaelites sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's in Egypt. So they sold him to slavery in Egypt. Pharaoh could see that the hand of God was upon Joseph. So he showed him grace and made him an overseer in his house. Joseph especially found favor in Pharaoh when he interpreted a dream for him. Pharaoh set Joseph in charge of the entire land of Egypt. I mean, what his brothers meant for evil, God turned it for good, so that the fulfillment of that dream that Joseph had will be carried out. So here he is sold into slavery, and he found favor in the eye of the person that he was enslaved to. So he became an overseer of the house of Pharaoh, and not only of the house of Pharaoh. After interpreting a dream for Pharaoh, he became the overseer, a person in charge of his entire land, the land of Egypt. Now, why Joseph was in the land of Egypt as a person being in charge of the land? Famine had came to the land of where Joseph's family lived, which was in Canaan, I believe it was. So here you got famine coming to the land of where Joseph's family lived, and they are in need of food, in need of grain. They need to purchase corn. So Joseph's father sends his sons to Egypt because he hears they have grain. So he sends his 10 sons to buy grain, but he leaves his youngest son, Benjamin, at home. Because see, now Benjamin takes the place of Joseph, another son conceived in love. So he do not want his younger son to go. He sends 10 sons by the Rachel and the handmaids to purchase grain, to buy corn in the land of Egypt. So the brothers, they traveled to Egypt, and because a lot of time had passed since Joseph, their brother, seen them, they did not recognize him. Joseph's voice was different from his 17-year-old voice when they sold him into slavery. His voice was different. He looked different. He has matured into a man. So they did not recognize him. They had no idea that the person they had went to buy grain from was their brother Joseph, because he was over the entire land of Egypt. Just as Joseph had dreamed, his brothers bowed down before him and pleaded for him to sell them grain. Joseph, following the dream he recalled the dream. So he knew he had to follow the dream, and he followed the dream, and he called his brothers spies. The brothers declared they were not spies, but 12 sons of the same father from the land of Canaan. They told Joseph their youngest brother is with their father, and they have one brother who was no longer with them. They were speaking of Joseph, who was no longer with them, the one who was standing before them that they didn't know they was bowing down before him. Joseph, wanting to see his youngest brother, Benjamin, requests the brothers to return home and bring back the youngest brother, as he held one brother. He detained one brother and threw him in prison, because see, he's making them think that he believes they are spies. And this is his plot to get them to come back and bring the other brother. So the brothers did as Joseph had requested, Because Joseph tells the brothers this is how they are to prove that they are not spies, by bringing the younger brother. The brothers did as Joseph had requested and brought the youngest brother on a second trip to purchase grain. Joseph filled his brothers' sacks with grain as well as gave them back their money. Joseph was so emotional when he saw his youngest brother Benjamin. He couldn't contain himself. He just wept. He wept, he cried so because he was happy to see his youngest brother. So Joseph ended up confessing. He eventually confessed to his brothers who he was. They couldn't believe their brother Joseph was alive and was the ruler over the land of Egypt, and that they had actually did what he told them, their dream, his dream, what they would do. But Joseph, he kissed and hugged each of his brothers as he wept. He held nothing against them. He asked his brothers to go tell his father, their father, that he was alive and the ruler of Egypt, and to inform his father that the famine will last 5 more years. See, the famine was to be in existence for 7 years, and 2 years had already passed. So he wanted his brothers to let his father know that it was going to be famine for an additional 5 years. And he wants his father to move his entire camp to Egypt so that he can take care of them all during the famine. So he sent his brothers back to let his father know. God came to Jacob, Joseph's father, who is now known as Israel, in a dream. And he told him to go to Egypt, and he will make them a great nation. He will make Israel a great nation. But he tells him to go to Egypt. So at this point, when the sons come back and tells him, Jacob, aka Israel, had no problem in moving his entire camp to Egypt. This is how Israel, the Israelites, end up dwelling in the land of Egypt. Many of us have encountered people in our lives, whether it be family or friends, who have plotted against us, lied on us, wished evil towards us, tried to destroy us, all because the favor of God is with us. Little do they know it is us who is praying for them and who will in turn bless them. And we are praying for them to find their way back into the light. This is because we see a lost soul. See, we're not holding the animosity or the anger or the jealousy in our heart that they are holding towards us when they plot against us to destroy us, all because the favor of God is on us. That goes to show you they are in darkness, because when you're in light, you are not jealous of the favor of God being on anyone else, because you know he's your God too, and he has enough love and light to go around to all of us, to shine on all of us who he all love. So these people who plot against us and think that they can take away the favor of God, they are walking in darkness. We have to keep in mind when we are praying for these lost souls who plotting against us, that they are in darkness. The light is, and they cannot see. They cannot see the light that is in us. They cannot see the light that is in us because they are in darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. It comprehends it not. So therefore they continue in their plot to try to destroy us, like that's going to bring favor to their lives, when they don't know in order to have the favor of God, Why don't you take a lesson from the ones you're jealous of? Take a lesson and say, what is it that they're doing to gain this favor of God? Let me do the same thing. Let me trust and believe in him. Let me praise him. Let me have a relationship with him. But instead of doing that, you want to destroy the one who is, thinking it's going to bring you in favor, bring you in relationship with him. All you're doing is separating yourself further from him. But nonetheless, us who have the favor of God in the light, we're not going to stop praying for you because we see a soul there and we know it's not too late. And we pray, and we must pray for that soul that is lost and not conform to that dark soul way. We cannot allow that dark soul to pull us out of the light and bring us into its darkness and meet it where it's at and match that energy. We got to continue to operate in the light of God, even if that dark soul cannot see it because it comprehends not. But we're going to pray for that soul to one day come into the light and see God the way we see God, be in relationship with God, because it's a personal walk. And they can have the same thing that they see us having, and without any jealousy in their heart. So I ask that we must pray the confidence in knowing their dark thoughts have no power. When we pray, we also have to know, as we praying for that soul, we got to have the confidence in knowing that their dark thoughts have no power over the love of God, so that we are not changed from what we have to do, from what we are instructed to do. And that is pray for that lost soul. Pray for those who despitefully wants to use you and come up against you. Pray for them. God got us. He got our back. We got to have the confidence in knowing that, and know that no weapons formed against us shall prosper. Continue to pray for that dark soul. Click the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Be blessed. Be safe, people. And remember to click that thumbs up button. Peace.